You're watching KRDO News Channel 13, where the news comes first. Your news starts right now.
And good evening, I'm Bart Bedsole.
And I'm Heather Skold. Thanks for making us your choice for your news at 10 o'clock. After having to deal with the everyday inconveniences of COVID-19 for the past 7 months, it's no surprise people are starting to ease up on mask wearing and social distancing.
City and state leaders even have a name for it, pandemic fatigue, and they say it's having a direct impact on the virus's resurgence. KRDO News Channel 13's Golightly spoke to some of those who are experiencing this. He joins us live in downtown Colorado Springs with what the impact is. Chase.
Bart, Heather, just walking around the downtown area tonight, you're going to see people not wearing masks or social distancing, telling us they're tired of dealing with COVID-19. But Governor Jared Polis and other leaders say it's putting Colorado in a bad position.
It's no secret people are tired of dealing with the impact COVID-19 has had on society. From those walking around downtown Colorado Springs.
I think everybody at our house is a little burnt out.
Definitely, it kind of sucks. Sometimes I run out the house and I forget my mask.
I think it's well overplayed.
For sure, I'm pretty over it and tired of it.
To the President of the United States.
You know what we want? Normal life.
Mayor John Souther says he's seen pandemic fatigue take over the Springs.
People are a little sick of this. They don't see, people immediately around them getting really sick. A lot of folks don't. And so they think, hey, no big deal.
But Governor Jared Polis says with cases and hospitalizations on the rise, we simply cannot give up.
Fatigue is setting in. That's why we're seeing these numbers increase. But the virus is not tired of us. It is still deadly.
Current data shows the virus is making a strong comeback. Dr. Rachel Herlihy, the state epidemiologist, says if this trend continues, we could eclipse the grim numbers we saw back at the start of the pandemic.
Based on our current trajectory, shown in the reddish or brown line, we are projected to exceed the level of hospitalizations we saw in the spring, in about mid-November.
While counties like El Paso and Pueblo are now considering adding restrictions, like limiting the amount of people indoors, Polis says those restrictions won't save us if people don't care about taking necessary precautions.
Counties and states can say what we say and counsel you how we counsel you, but ultimately it's up to you whether you take that scientific-based advice and follow that scientific-based advice.
So how close are we to another round of setbacks and restrictions? I'm told that they could be implemented as soon as next week if we don't get our hospitalizations and case numbers down. Reporting live in Colorado Springs, Golightly, KRDO News Channel 13.
All right, Chase, thanks. The case numbers do continue to spike at a dizzying pace here in southern Colorado.
Nowhere more so than El Paso County, which logged 182 new cases today and 1 new death. That is 1 case short of tying our one-day infection record as El Paso County tries to avoid a downgrade to a stay-at-home status.
Pueblo and Teller counties have seen a similar trend, though at a slower rate. Pueblo had 18 new cases today, while Teller County had 1. That being said, Pueblo is also looking at a rollback on variances. The governor's office has set a deadline of October 30th to reduce Pueblo County's infection rate. Officials held a news conference on the Riverwalk today, emphasizing the gravity of the situation. So far this month, Pueblo County has 413 positive COVID tests. That's nearly double last month's total. Officials say they'll be forced to take strong measures if the situation doesn't improve considerably in the next 10 days.
What does that mean for us? That means that businesses would be at 25% capacity. Our variances would go away. So places that we have variances for, such as bars, would likely have to close. The capacity within indoor events would go down to 75. Our outdoor event numbers would also decrease. All of these things have a drastic impact on our local economy and our local businesses.
There was some good news. The county will begin taking applications tomorrow for a piece of $500,000 in CARES Act money. It'll help businesses and nonprofits deal with projected impacts this winter. If you'd like to apply, we've posted a link on our web story at krdo.com.
Fremont County is dealing with a sudden spike of its own. Health officials are preparing to expand COVID-19 testing starting this Thursday. Free drive-through testing will now be available 6 days a week at the Garden Park Center building on 6th Street. The site will open from 9 to 3 p.m. every day except Sunday, with results expected to come in just 2 days. That news comes as Canyon City High School goes to remote learning due to a suspected outbreak. One student tested positive, and several others in their cohorts are now experiencing symptoms. Additionally, the county is now on the White House's list of hotspots, primarily due to that ongoing outbreak at the Fremont Correctional Facility.
To weather now, and we should have known tonight's sunset would be spectacular. With today's overcast skies, it was the perfect setup to the day's end. Jeffrey Heiser, one of our resident shutterbugs, captured these breathtaking photos from Prospect Lake at Memorial Park in Colorado Springs. Storm Tracker 13 Chief Meteorologist Mary Matthews is in now with a first check of our evening forecast. Mary.
Yeah, Bart, it's been a nice quiet evening across most of the region. Of course, temperatures are going to be dropping into the 30s overnight tonight. We have a weak little front that's moving through the region. Calm conditions right now, though, across Monument, northern El Paso County, our Community Banks of Colorado camera. We do have those east winds that are really the primary feature across the plains. And that is all due to this front that is moving in. Again, it's not going to give us a drastic change in temperatures, but it is going to yield a few areas that are going to get a good 6 to 7 degree drop tonight versus this time last night. Our cooler air will be right here across I-25 around Colorado Springs in the middle 30s tonight. We'll be in the 30s and 40s across the eastern plains. Only locations that will experience those sub-freezing temperatures will be west of I-25 for those high valleys or some of those low-lying areas that are into the mountains. Otherwise, places like Woodland Park in the mid-30s tonight, right around freezing for Monument Hill. But if you live just west of Palmer Park or the areas just west of Larkspur, if you live in a low-lying valley, probably going to get down around 32 degrees tonight. Temperatures tomorrow will be slightly cooler. We're still going to be trending above average, mainly steady in the 70s. Smoke is not a major problem for today, and it won't be for tomorrow. But as we move through Thursday, we're going to get an increase in winds across the area from a much stronger front. It's going to drop across the state Thursday night. That is going to yield some high fire dangers. So we've already got fire weather watches going up in effect for parts of the Raton Mesa and the Sangre de Cristos. So that is something we'll be cognizant of. This is going to be a much stronger front that's going to move across the region. Again, this is not the front that is moving through right now, but it is the front that is already showing up here across the Pacific Northwest. That will be moving through Thursday night and into Friday, and is going to give us some bone-chilling temperatures by Friday afternoon. So we'll talk more about that system coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Mary, thanks. We'll see you then to Your Voice, Your Vote now. 2 weeks from tonight, you believe that? We'll be knee-deep in election night coverage. But while the presidential race grabs headlines, voters will also decide a long list of state and local ballot measures.
In Colorado Springs, that means questions about the city's revenue restrictions and whether voters should have a say in land exchanges. News Channel 13's Lauren Barnas is live in our studio to break down each ballot issue. Lauren.
Well, you know, sometimes ballot measures can be a little confusing, and the text is not always the simplest either. So here's the background behind 2A, 2B, and 2C.
Just trying to do more research before I even cast a ballot or cast a vote.
Measure 2A would allow the city to use its 2019 revenue base in financial planning and not its 2020 revenue base, which shows an economic loss.
When a city has a loss in revenue from one year to the next, their revenue base ratchets down to that new lower level and can only grow from there by the allowed formula under TABOR.
The state's Taxpayer Bill of Rights, or TABOR, requires the city get voters' permission to bypass it. The mayor expects our post-pandemic recovery to take 3 or 4 years if 2A fails, but about half that time if it passes. 2A would also permit the city to spend $1.9 million on police and fire departments. Controversial, as some groups call to defund CSPD. But Mark Murphy already submitted his ballot and says that's part of the reason he voted for 2A.
Because I believe that it was going towards like law enforcement and first responders, which I definitely think we should support.
Measures 2B and 2C would stiffen the requirements for city park land exchanges, following the controversial Strawberry Fields land swap in 2016. The city traded land with the Broadmoor in a 6-3 vote, sparking protest and legal action. 2B would require voter approval of such a swap and require at least 7 city council members vote to get the question onto a public ballot.
If they're going to be able to, sell the land or use it for another use, I really think that we should be able to have a voice in that.
2C would stop one step short of that, requiring approval by a city council supermajority only. The mayor favors 2C.
There's a lot of people who would like to donate land to the city, a lot of land in exchange for a small amount of land, who are going to say, no, I don't want to sit around and wait for a vote of the people.
And here's something else to note. If both land issues 2B and C are approved, the one with more votes will take effect. If you still have questions, you can read the full text for each resolution on KRDO.com, as well as a sample ballot. In the studio, Lauren Barnas, KRDO News Channel 13.
All right, Lauren, thanks. Meanwhile, with just 2 weeks to go, it's a mad race to the finish for President Trump and Democrat Joe Biden. The campaign's looking very different today, with Trump holding a rally in Pennsylvania and Biden at home preparing for Thursday night's debate. Meanwhile, early voting continues to set records nationwide.
As you can see, the line extends for many, many yards down.
I would never mail my ballot in because I don't really trust the post office. Sorry.
More than 35 million Americans have already cast a ballot. That's according to the United States Election Project. So far, though, Colorado has avoided the long lines and delays that many other states are dealing with. Tonight, we continue following not just a series of fires northwest of Denver, but the many crews fighting them.
It's hard on the families because, you know, we're out there working hard all day long and they have to hold down the fort.
Up next, hear more from one local crew that's now working to protect some of their own homes, as well as hundreds of others.